take their price discovery lead from the informal market. That's the point he was making before he was cut off. So I do apologize for that. But Olivia, what did you make of that?
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. But what what I was trying to explain was that then during the Emefiele era, we're practicing a fixed exchange rate system, so it was very easy for the official market to be the reference point. But now that we have a floating regime, we look for a market that is more efficient, more transparent, easily accessible. Even those that work in the bank industry really don't really know what's going to happen. Some people don't even know how to get prices from that market. So I think that's what I was trying to make explain, that yes, we're coming from a fixed to a floating system, so the narrative changed, and that was how the P2P market became more systemic and how it took the reference point capability from the official market.
Crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff. We got one of the Bitcoin guys here, Mr. Everything Satoshi. Let me just get what he has in mind. Mr. Satoshi, you've heard what we're talking about as regards the Binance and even the BDC. What's your community saying about these new guidelines? Let me see if I also get Tunde back in here.
Well, my community has always been saying what we've been saying from the beginning, that Binance is a criminal organization now co-opted by the Department of Justice, just like Olumide said, and is willing to cooperate with any government that's willing to cooperate with the Department of Justice. The people who are of the opinion that Bybit or other exchanges are not soft target from the previous room, I will only say to them that when the state usually decides to go for exchanges for them to facilitate their capital controls, they usually go for the ones with the most volumes. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Go ahead.
All right, awesome. They usually go for the ones with the most volumes, and that's actually why I came up to ask Olumide this particular question, because when he shared information about him getting data about geolocations for users of these digital assets, as it's called, I wanted to ask him whether or not he was aware of the API that is being used to correlate this NGN pricing with the exchange. Who is really in charge of that API? Is it the state, like the Nigerian government, that is sort of working with the Binance team, or is it just a general API that is not in control by the Nigerian government? Because that will really tell. And the reason I ask this is,
what API? Sorry, I can't hear you clearly. You're quoting. What API are you talking about?
I apologize. So the thing is, the API that correlates. First of all, is that an API that correlates? There should be that correlates the NGN to the NGN USD parity across all exchanges, such that if NGN is moving maybe at a delta of maybe 6% in this exchange, is also doing so in all other exchanges. That's what I wanted to know, whether you had information.
I'm not aware of that application program interface. That's what you mean. I'm not aware of that. Exactly. But you see, you write it down. That's why when I can't remember the speaker before the stockbroker made his pointers, a lot of people forget that the market is not central. It's not, despite the fact that centralized entity, you see that the price of Bitcoin on Coinbase is not really the specific price. And that's why the early traders that time, they made a lot of money from arbitrage. But the market is becoming more efficient. The differentials have become negligible. But just like the point you raised there, very valid point, it's not that they have research. And that's why Binance is becoming systemic. The biggest P2P market there, I remember when I was covering the Nigerian space, was Paxful and all these other local Bitcoins and all these guys. And that was because then Binance just saw the need that a lot of people needed the attention on stablecoin was becoming, and some users complain about, because one of the flaws of P2P markets is counterparty risk, and Binance
I'm just.
And enact their capital controls. I will just stop here and probably allow others to go ahead.
Yeah, and if we may, let me just bring back Tunde, just so that Tunde can just complete the point he was making about the informal markets taking a lead from the informal market, because we got cut off. So maybe Tunde can finish his train of thought, and then Olumide we can go back. Tunde, thanks for hanging out with us, please. So you were making that comment about that. Please, if you could just land on that, sir.
All right, thank you so much. So the point I'm making is that, the essence of regulated markets is because they do have real life implication. And that is why, you will see the New York Stock Exchange and the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the likes, all those regulated markets, they have circuit breakers. They have caps on movement or prices up and down and all of that, because trading on the assets that are quoted on them have real life implication for the economy and for the people within the economy. However, unregulated markets typically do not have the circuit breakers, and they do not have price caps regarding liquidity. All right. I think what has happened, which is the reason why I think the CBN and the federal government is having to now move in and do something, is that Chinese wall that typically exists between the regulated and the regulated market and the unregulated market recently has been breached. So we now saw a situation where the regulated market was now taking their reference from the regulated market. All right, and that led to significant price instability within the economy. All right, so I will say that if the Binance and all these markets do not want government regulation, which I suspect they do not want, the way they are able to establish that Chinese wall, and it held previously prior to this, they need to find a way of making that happen again. All right, because that Chinese wall held during the MFLA period and all of that. It held. And that is why, what was happening on the unregulated market was not impacting the regulated market. Unless they are able to do that, then we will expect that, government will continue to do that for them. Because no government in the world will have a situation where the price of their currency or any asset class whatsoever will be determined on the whims and caprices of traders. All right, simply because those prices do have real life implications. So, like I said, I'm not too familiar with Binance and all of that. I don't know what they put in place before. So, but from the conversation I'm hearing, we can blame the government all we want. It's not only the Nigerian government that have tried to put a brake on the impact on the commingling of the regulated and the unregulated market. If you check, virtually all over the world, you have governments doing that. All right. So unless the markets themselves are able to put in place tools that enable their participants to participate without having to cross over the Chinese wall, then of course we should expect that the government will continue to take action against them.
Interesting.
That's my take on it.
So essentially, you are saying that if we can separate the formal and the informal folks, and they do not mix or talk to each other,
and they do not intermingle.
The government will not intermingle. But how is that possible in reality? Because it's the same.
Unfortunately, it's impossible. Sorry to really interrupt you, because the people you are trying to separate from each other all share the same protocol, which is the internet protocol. They see what's happening online. It's hard to say don't access the internet and use this software to do X, Y, Z. It's really it's maybe on paper it's possible, but realistically it's very, very impossible.
Okay, let me give you an idea of how I feel it's possible. And that's part of some of the things that CBN is doing. All right. it will start with convertibility. All right, the instruments you are trading on Binance. All right, how convertible is it? Is it to real money in Nigeria? That is where it's going to start from.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? When they make it difficult, they will make it difficult for you to be able to convert those instruments to either real naira or real dollar in Nigeria.
You are correct. They can do that, but the thing is that most people right now are placing value in this realm. Some of them don't want to change it to real money. Some of them know that there are people who would collect those assets, those digital assets, for real world value without having to move it into Nigerian naira. So people don't even want Nigerian naira.
Good point, Tunde. So Tunde, I'll pick the good point. What he's saying,
that is where the separation will now happen. So that the trading will now be happening in that space. It will not cross over the Chinese wall to the real world, which is Nigeria. Do you understand what I'm saying? So people will now be trading assets, and even the dollars that they are exchanging amongst themselves will probably be convertible to real US dollars in the US. Or maybe other markets.
Tunde, well understood, Tunde, but I look at it this way: like if I want to go buy a car on the street of Lagos, and the guy says my car is worth $2,000, real dollars, not crypto, 2,000 real dollars, and I want to change my naira to dollars, what rate would he use? Would he use the Binance quote unquote rate, or would he use the rate in CBN? That's what the problem is. Everybody knows they're going to use, if he's going to use the Binance rate, because that would look like the rate that is determined by price discovery, free market demand and supply. That's the problem that CBN is grappling with. Because if you come to me and I know I'm going to buy, I don't want to change to naira, but I want to get a price for my asset that is real. So I think that's the problem with CBN, that CBN is saying our price is real. And those guys are saying our price is real. And the market seems to agree with the crypto people that their price is real. I don't think it's a regulation thing. The market believes that the crypto price is real. That's the problem.
But what I would say is this. Don't forget that the CBN controls naira. They might not control dollar. They control naira, but essentially, if you are bringing naira into the country, they are trying to control. If you are bringing dollars into the country, they are trying to control the amount of naira you will get for that dollar. That's what CBN is trying to do. And that is why they are bringing this issue of if you want dollars, you can't get more than $500. The money will be in your card, and it will be in naira card and all whatnot. What they are saying is that the money, your dollars that is coming into this country, CBN wants to have the control of the amount of naira you are going to get for it. You understand what? That is essentially what CBN is trying to do, and they have control over that because they are the ones that controls naira.
Can I agree with you and say that yes, to somewhat counter Carlos' point, which was most of the trading done on Binance was in inverted comma. Free market trading, right? And that was giving the real price discovery. So to your point, to agree with you, the government has now co-opted Binance to somewhat shut down that free market place, and then control the pricing mechanism, and then choosing to cap it themselves, just whispering to Binance's ear, you know what, cap it. You know what, confiscate this person's funds, you know what, because he's trying to do X, Y, Z, right? That is where I feel they have gotten to at this point with all of these restrictions, right? But my further point that I will make is, even if they do that, there is still ways of which people who are technically savvy enough can circumvent all of this, their centralized capture, right? All of this is Binance, a central entity. We know the issuers, we know the CEO, we know who to meet, we know who to call at the DOJ to make all of this possible. There is technologies in which there is nobody to call, and the Nigerians are already using that, and they can't stop them. So this is just a thing where most users are not technically savvy enough to know the consequences of using these platforms, and then they get caught in the middle. The guys with the most funds who do really understand technology have already moved away and are still doing their P2P, whether or not the government chooses to do whatever they want to do with Binance, so that it doesn't look like I'm actually accusing them of the central bank.
Interesting.
Right? So, yes, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So let me just ask you guys, right? Does this have anything to do with this new digital naira? That digital naira and its role with this Binance and Olumide and Satoshi? We had this talk when this digital naira came. Is there what's the connection? Connect it for us, please.
Carlo, it's all control. It's all about control. That is what all of this is about. It's all about control.
Just like what the stockbroker said, just like what the stockbroker said. I told you that the CBN right now, if you look at the policy, supply side, they have limited power, but they can regulate their market, they can regulate the current. And you see, whether we like it or not, despite the fact that it looks like the CBN is short of FX ammunition, the CBN still has tools to really minimize damage in its currency market. It can be unorthodox, but I would say tell you for free, it stopped at some point. And I think, everybody started panicking, even those on the other side.
The fact that it can even happen, that is the mind blowing. The fact that the cap can happen is what has scared a lot of people and showed
you should be surprised. People should be surprised because when you have your currency market, it was just like what happened. If you look at the European stablecoin legislation that came into play last year, Binance is already compliant with it now. By next year now, is it this year or next year? I can't remember the actual date. They are all going because Europeans they don't like the fact that US dollar was controlling their market. They didn't like it, so they passed the European stablecoin legislation. They should okay, if you want to have this thing, you must operate with European stablecoin. But you see, the difference between Europe and Nigeria is that Europe is more systemic. They have more bragging rights. They have more tentacles, and their market is not as concentrated as Nigeria. They have a wider payment network. They have different financial institutions that can meet demand. The problem with Nigeria and why Binance is very systemic is 3 reasons. Binance has 170 million, at least 170 million users. Nigeria's biggest bank, Access Bank, has 58 million users. Secondly, Binance revenue alone makes Nigeria's revenue look like a local government allocation. Now, thirdly again, if you look at the fact that Binance has much liquidity, different market making, Nigeria's market is illiquid. So the CBN, it's like a titan against a horse. So the CBN has to do with whatever within, and that's why I agree with most people start to say that what they're really doing is we cannot control dollar, but anything in our space we can do that and they can do that. It might affect the populace, but the only problem I have is that was one of the problems the Naira had, and that's one of the problems the CNGM had, because you see, one of the things I've noticed about the Nigerian populace is that despite the fact that you might be looking at the country's interest, you must be able to sell your message in such a way that you don't alienate, because the damage it causes now, you see, if you ask the average Nigerian, what's your problem with Emefiele, apart from the fact that politics is the crypto ban, on Twitter is the crypto ban, if they want to list a thing for him to tell the crypto ban, they will not forgive him for that. And that was why this federal government was not about it, that they didn't use a press release about say, okay, we'll come and balance everything. It was a scoop from Premium Times, and the confirmation it just came from President Spokesman. The NSS, the CBN, the NSA, they are all mute. They understand that agitating the Nigerian populace is the least they need. So we need to be very constructive on how, if you want to enforce security interests, we have a very young population, and that's where I'm very afraid about our policymakers. They make a lot of points when they're making, but the behavioral pattern at which they don't understand the body language or make executive, because what does it benefit when you make a rule that benefits the interest of the country, but the country that is meant for it as a threat to them? And that was why when Dina was almost looked like a failed project. Banks don't like it because it's going to take their money from their apps. Nigerians see it as a threat against the crypto market, how was it going to be successful? So this is the mistake the federal government need to take, and that's why I said extremism does not work in markets.
Okay, let me just add to what you said, and you made some very, very solid points. It's very clear that the CBN cannot go up against Binance. You understand what I'm saying? But I think what they understand at this point is that, unfortunately, that's exactly what Emefiele also understood. The fact that they do not need to go up against Binance regarding the US dollars. They can't, and they shouldn't need to. But what they have is a control over the naira. You understand what I'm saying? And they are saying, okay, fine, price the naira against the dollar at whatever level you want, all right? But the point at which you actually need the naira, all right, to exchange for the dollar here or in physical terms, that is the point at which we will tell you that this is how much naira we're going to give you for the dollar, irrespective of what Binance and the other people are saying, and which is the point I keep making about the separation of the regulated market and the unregulated market. You understand what I'm saying? Is either the markets themselves do it themselves and bring that separation, or the government will do it, which is exactly what we're seeing now. All right? It is very clear that the market, given that what they have promised people is that, look, you can come and trade your assets at any price you want. You understand what nobody's going to stand in the middle of it. They obviously cannot be able to start putting rules now to say, okay, look, we are going to set limits as to volume you can put. We are going to set limits as to how much volatility will agree with our assets. But because those have real life implication here on ground in Nigeria, the Nigerian government cannot allow that. They just can't. I understand the issue of the young population trading on Binance will not like the idea that government is trying to bring regulation. But you must understand the fact that when you are in government, your concern goes beyond the people, one set of people.
Olatunde, you have to consider the young populace, because they make up the significant portion.
But they don't have any. They don't have any assets. Everything Satoshi. Young people don't have any assets per se. So
yeah, they don't. Yes, you are correct, 100%. But this medium is bigger than just having an asset. It's also a medium.
No, I think what Tunde is saying is that in reality, yeah, you
want to trade the assets and everything. But don't forget also the fact that if the action of these same young people we're talking about is what is going to cause the price of bread to come from 750 to 2,000, the Nigerian government will not have that.
Okay, Tunde, now as you said it, Tunde, and again, if you guys don't know, Tunde is a stockbroker. He used to be the past chairman of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, so he's a quote-unquote establishment guy. Just so you know, right? So, Tunde, but do you think that really that the movement in Binance is really the problem, or do you think it's more of a supply? Let's just say bread goes from 700 to 2,000. Is it really the Binance guys, or just the lack of supply from crude oil sales and all that? Or do you think maybe CBN is backing up the wrong horse here, doing the right thing but at the wrong people?
I will look at it. I will answer that question in two fronts. Number one, at the very beginning, clearly we had supply issues. Do you understand what I'm saying? We had supply issues, but even then, you agree with me, Kalu, that supply issues is relative. It's relative to demand, and whether that demand is real or artificial. You have traded on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, a company brings a very good result, and people just put large demand on the system. Those demands are not necessarily backed by cash, but because they know there's nobody supplying, they can put that demand there just to make it appear as if, okay, look, there's demand. The moment someone supplies, that demand disappears because people are put demand there that they know they can't support with cash.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, what is happening on Binance, I mean, and I again, caveat, I cannot say I understand so much. But what I've heard is that people could very well put demand in Binance that is not necessarily backed by cash.
Interesting.
All right? That is not necessarily backed by cash.
Like a naked put.
Unless someone actually supplies people and clear that demand, then you will not know whether that demand is real or artificial.
Interesting.
So if we are now saying we have supply issues, you understand, we will not know whether that supply is adequate or not. If real demand and artificial demand are mingling in the marketplace. So unless you are able to separate real from artificial demand, and now to say and be able to say, yes, the real demand in this economy is $5 million.
Okay.
Then we will know whether the supply that the CBN has is enough or not. Okay, I'll give you an example. Last week, the CBN announced that because of some of the actions they've taken, you are aware that they have increased interest rates and all of that, and we are seeing more aside from increase in crude dollars coming from crude. We've also seen more foreign portfolio investors coming into the country. Last week, the CBN announced that at least $1.8 billion came into the country, and yet, despite the fact that $1.8 billion came into the country for within a week, which is extremely unusual. That is significant supply. Yet, the exchange rate continued to depreciate. And why was it depreciating? It was simply because the BDCs, rather than to go and fill real demand, what they were doing was sit in their office and they will call somebody that is trading on Binance and say, tell me what the exchange rate is on Binance.
Huh.
And then they will use the exchange rate they are taking for Binance to sell dollars on the streets.
Huh.
That was what was going on.
Interesting.
Rather than feel. So whether the bid on Binance is real or artificial, nobody knows.
Okay, but just a last push on this. Whether it's real or artificial, the point is that oil sales are 2.2 billion barrels a day in 2005. Today is 1.7 today. So that's a loss of revenues. I mean, Obasanjo, Lumelu, Mr. Seplatman have all said oil is being stolen. So there's clearly a fall in supply. So that supply is real. The supply has gone down. Remittances have gone down and all that. So perhaps it's 50-50 that supply has gone down and demand is artificial, and both of them are contributing to the...
Absolutely. Don't forget that the markets have actually reflected the drop in oil production. The market have reflected it. Well, during Obasanjo, what was the exchange rate?
Okay.
150.
I get your point.
You understand what exchange rate is 800 now. So
if I can make a contribution.
The market have already reflected the fact that our supply of dollars has been impacted by the reduction in production of oil. The market have reflected that. The remaining above that is the impact of what was happening with Binance and the other and the crossing of the line between Binance and the BDCs in Nigeria.
Interesting.
And that for me represent that the artificial demand elements that the market needs to get rid of.
Interesting.
That element between the 850, which the CBN governor himself has mentioned, and any other thing above that, for me, represent the artificial element that needs to be gotten rid of.
Interesting.
One way or the other.
Let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask you a question, right? There's a guy here on DM asking me a question. He lives in Nigeria, he gets paid in US dollars. He's asking, does this all mean that I'm going to get my money in Naira? That's what he wants to know. He lives in Nigeria, he does gigs, he gets his salaries in dollars. Is he going to be paying his dollar? Because his company is going to do it officially.
Why should anybody pay him in Naira? Why should I? I mean, I assume that they're already paying him in US dollars.
Yes, right now it's getting money US dollars. They've stopped because they want to know what's happening.
No. Nobody is saying he can't receive US dollars now. He can still receive US dollars into his DOM account.
Exactly. 100%.
Nobody is stopping him from receiving US dollars.
My
you
friends.
understand what I'm saying? All they are saying is that when he needs, if for any reason he needs to convert that US dollars he's earning into naira, maybe because he needs to buy food or pay rent. You understand what I'm saying? We want to have an idea of the exchange rate he's going to use, and I'm sure that he will rather also have a situation where the exchange rate is going to use to convert that dollars to naira to buy whatever it is he needs to buy in Nigeria is a reasonable rate.
Except he uses money transfer or Western Union or MoneyGram. He doesn't want to spend the account.
And that is it. And there's nowhere in the world where money transfer you will transfer US dollar, and then you now come and collect US dollar in my local country. Nowhere in the world that happens. If I transfer naira to Saudi, assuming I'm in Saudi, if I transfer naira from Saudi through money transfer, it is Saudi riyal they will give me. If I transfer naira from here through money transfer to Kenya, they will give me Kenya shillings. Why should anybody now be requesting that they should give them dollars in Nigeria? Why?
I think today the only reason I can think of is this, because if you don't give them, they can get it elsewhere. So the CBN is trying to compete.
They should go and get it elsewhere.
But that's what they're doing.
That's what they are doing now.
Okay, so they will keep it in dollars. Nobody's going to argue with them about keeping it in dollars. All we are saying, we have to be very clear here. All we are saying is that if ultimately you need to buy something with that dollars in Nigeria here, then it is naira you're going to use.
Interesting.
All right, and we want to have an idea of the conversion.
People say that as capital control, if they can, like as Carlos said, do it elsewhere. But my major question to you, Ogatune, is: do you think the people policing all of this are the same individuals involved in the oil theft? Because then it makes the whole thing a whole cat and mouse game and finger pointing game at this point, which is the major concern. Because people are bringing up valiant points of, look at the oil theft. Everyone is pointing to the oil theft. Everyone is pointing to the oil theft. But there's this smoke screen where people are pointing elsewhere, and it seems like the people trying to police this thing are the same people causing. So, what's your stance on that, or do you prefer not to comment?
Well, honestly, I will not say I have any knowledge about the issue of oil theft or whatever it is that they are seeking to do. From my own perspective, I think that and I mean, I'm not in government in any capacity whatsoever. I will just I'm just trying to postulate what I think the mindset of the government is at the moment. The government sees a situation where the exchange. Don't forget that Nigeria is a significantly import dependent economy. There's nothing you produce in Nigeria that does not have a dollar content. Even the yam you are buying in the market has a dollar content. Gari has dollar content. Because we don't produce caterpillars here, and if you are going to use caterpillar to till the land to plant the cassava, you are going to use to make gari. That's a dollar content. So what I see is a situation where government realizes that because we are an import dependent economy, the fluctuation or the instability in the exchange rate of the dollar is actually affecting the common man on the streets and could very well lead to social disorder. All right? And so what they are trying to do is to control that so that the common man, that the bricklayer that is having to buy bread and akara, that was able to buy it for 1,000 naira before.
You are correct. Don't you think that that's a low-hanging fruit? That's the major thing that I'm talking about. Don't you think that there are bigger fishes to fry than this?
Okay, so if I understand where you are going, you are thinking that rather than for the government to find a way of increasing oil production and increase supply.
Okay.
And if you increase supply, then prices will come down.
All right.
You understand what I'm saying? I understand that.
I got you.
That's a good That's a good medium to long-term thing.
Tunde,
I don't think that government will be able to increase oil production from whatever it is to 2 million in 6 months.
good.
It's something that will happen in a few years.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, let's just move through the room. A lot of guys have their hands up. Let me just. We also wanted to talk about MPC and the GDP, but I think we're stuck here. Let's talk about. Let me just move through the room. So Michael, OIK, Malam, just go through the room and just make sure this was. So Michael, got the floor. About a minute. Just take a minute to ask your question. Just go back to the point. Michael, you've got the floor.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Carlo, for this space. I quickly wanted to point out to Mr. Olatunde, that the reason why you shouldn't think Binance will be hamstringed by the Nigerian government is because the dollarization of Nigeria, there is too much pressure on the dollar, and the too much pressure on the dollar has obviously shown that the government does not have control over the stability and the supply of it inside of the country. And the only people the government is concerned with making sure they have dollars those are the top, the elite guys, the politicians. However, now that young generation Nigerians also need dollars and they can't get it inside Nigeria, they are bound to go to the biggest next person who can do that. And the biggest next person is Binance. So now that the Nigerian government has played its own hands by trying to put a benchmark on what should be the price of USDC on Binance, I think they've just they've put a nail on the cross on the coffin, because they will not be able to try this trick multiple times. And since we do not have control over the demand and supply of dollar due to, of course, decrease in sale of oil, which you have refused to acknowledge because you are not, or which you are unable to acknowledge because you are not in government. I believe I wanted to point out to the fact that why they may be able to put a benchmark on the USDT sale right now, they may not be able to do it multiple times, else it will lead to the of course,
okay, yeah, good.
I just wanted to point that out.
Good point. I'm not sure if you're asking a question, but that was more of a comment, and I think it's well taken. Let me get OIK, unless Tunde or Lumide only wants to answer. Let me get OIK to go ahead and speak. Michael, thank you for that comment. If I take you off just to create space for more speakers, so just don't mind me if I take you off. OIK, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kalaja. Hi, Olumide Adeshina. Listen, guys, I am sorry. I don't want to take you back, but if you can't answer my dummy questions, perhaps maybe towards the end or some other day. But I'm in nice space, because all this has been in the news, Binance and what have you, and whatever the CBN is doing, the gymnastics they're doing, to our currency and to the economy, basically, financial economy, basically. My question is that, for me, I'm speaking for myself. I hope I'm speaking for some other few people in the audience. I know you guys are enjoying your conversation because you're just trying to figure out what's going on, and it's a great conversation. It can go on forever. But the point is, I'm trying to understand everything. I'm getting it, but it seems like I'm learning from the hardest, from the hardest part. Can we break down this? For instance, Binance, yeah, I understand it's got something to do with crypto buy. It's got something to do with stabilizing the naira with the.
I hear you, OIK.
Sure, I understand. Hold on. I understand the fear of this, the dynamics. People are working out the dynamics.
Gotcha.
When did Binance get into the picture of Nigerian economy? Number one. Number two, how can we, like I live in the United States, is there a correlation of Binance, or is there something like Binance in the US? I'm a little lost there, I know our situation in Nigeria is kind of peculiar. We've not been floating the naira, and we're just beginning to float the naira, and so maybe there are other Binance is there now, and it's supposed to be a big player, and then government is trying to stop Binance. Please, can you just break it down a little bit so we know, are there three forces in place, CBN, Binance, and the reality of things? So, we talk of supply and demand, please. Okay, someone's already laughing at me.
No,
Sorry,
don't
laugh at me. Okay?
It's a great question. No, hold up. It's a great question. Okay, maybe sometimes when I usually start, I usually sort of give an explainer for about 10 minutes. Just when the experts come, like Olumide come and everything that should come, You have it. Let me just say so
I joined late, sorry.
No, we didn't even have it this time. We just went straight up. And we did this not the space initially. The other one was broken off. We're in Lagos. So it was broken off a bit. But let me just let me explain it this way.
Too,
okay.
I started about 30 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
I've been on.
Okay, so look at it this way, right? When you have a currency, when you have the Naira, the US dollar is the global currency for exchange and reserves and settlement. So if I'm buying cars from Japan, just like for example, I don't use Naira. I don't also use yen. I do Naira, dollar, yen. If Japan wants to buy goods from, say, Congo, they will do yen, dollar, then whatever Congolese guys use. So the dollar is the exchange rate of settlement. Now, what then happens in Nigeria or currencies? You have two forms of, should we say, management of a currency. If your currency is convertible, which means that like the US dollar, the pounds, the Australian dollar, the Swiss franc, these are convertible currencies. You can easily just change your dollars for pounds. Easily, it just goes through, you change it. If it's convertible, usually the exchange rate is not set by the central banks. It's set by the free market. So you can go on your phone, you have dollars in your account, you want to buy pounds, they give you a quote, you buy, end of story. For countries like Nigeria, the Naira is not convertible. That's an economic word. Don't look at it as an English word. The convertibility is not convertible. That means for us, Nigeria, when you hold a Naira bill in your hand, the central bank would say, we say this Naira bill is worth so and so in dollars. So in Nigeria's case, before the peg was removed, central bank will say it's worth 487 Naira, will give you $1. So if you go to the central bank and you give them 487 Naira, they should give you $1. That's what's called the peg, right? The peg. But the real market, if you go outside the CBN and you want to exchange dollars, say with Olumide has dollars, I want to buy from Olumide, Olumide will say, no, I would give you my dollars and you'd pay me 1,000. How will I get it from Olumide? Olumide would go to what's called the P2P market, which is exchanges like Binance. Olumide will sell me, I'll open an account, Olumide has an account, Olumide will sell me his USDT or whatever he wants to sell to me, and I would credit him the correspondent value in Naira for that 1,000. So you see there are two markets in Nigeria, the parallel market and of course the official market. Why do people go to the parallel market? Because the price is more representative of what they see on the streets. If you go to the streets of Lagos, you buy at 1,000. If you go to the site, to the banks or CBN, you buy at 487. Now the CBN has removed the peg, meaning that you can go to your bank and you can buy at the quote-unquote market price. The problem now is that folks are using the market price for Binance, that exchange, as the exchange rate, and not, even though it's a free market, they are not using the quote at the average or the weighted average code that the CBN is publishing. They are going by Binance. So that means two kids can just wake up, one in Katsina, one in Abia, and say they want to buy dollar or want to buy USDT, and they can say it is worth 1.2, and they will do that trade. If they do that trade on the exchange, that becomes the exchange rate for the Naira and for the dollar. So what today is said is that exchange you see there is not yes, it's $2, $1, $25, but it's not what a company like Cadbury or Shell or Zenith Bank should then use to do transactions, because that's just $2. So the real exchange rate now should be something that the market, the real corporates that are importing and are doing trade should use. Which is why he's talking about two markets, that the formal market and the informal market should not mix. So the kids can go on Binance, not the kids, I'm not saying it derogatory, but the folks can go to Binance and do their trades. But then if I want to import 100 buses from Japan, I will use a rate not from Binance. I said what CBN is trying to do, to separate the formal and the informal, and to make sure that we're not just simply going online, picking a rate that I and Olumide used to exchange $50 and say that represents the value of the Naira. That's where we are right now. So when you see them say Binance, that's the parallel side, CBN, that's the other side. So I hope you've caught up to speed. Today is more or less, if we can tag today, we will tag today as the official side. And everyday Satoshi people, Olumide people are the parallel market people. So 2 camps, if you want to do it that way. Does that help you out now?
Yeah, it does. But why do you say that it's the young people? Is it because it's crypto, the big Binance?
The demographics of the folks that do that are not what I mean young. These are 40-year-olds. Even after such of this, it's not a kid. It's not that they are young per se. Maybe we'll say young in tech. These are tech-friendly folks that understand the peer-to-peer, use a computer. It's also traders. Olumide has said that Anambra,
forex trading?
Not forex trading. Anambra, for instance, they do a lot of trade with China, with all that. They do a lot of this P2P because that's how they used to settle trades when they do import and export. Because remember, 44 items were banned for a long time in Nigeria. So because those items were banned, if you want to do trade, you had to go online and do that trade. That's where you now have the concentration of traders doing P2P and crypto because they have to use that market. They can't rely on the CBN because a while back, 44 items were banned, which then led to the creation and strengthening of this P2P. So more or less, the CBN created what they're trying to fight today.
Okay, P2P. Okay, that's a new one.
Yeah,
thank you.
Peer-to-peer. You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
All right, can I go now? Sorry, please.
Who is this? Is Bala? Bala, please go ahead.
Does it make any difference if I have 1 million today and I want to put it in? I want to buy USDT, and tomorrow I have ₦1 billion. Does it make any difference? As long as there's liquidity, I can pass it through and there will not be any problem, right? Am I correct?
From what you remember it's an exchange, right? Yes, so it's an exchange. So if you bid, there's going to be an offer, or if you offer, there will be a bid, and you guys settle the price, and you can transfer. So that's what the exchange. It has nothing to do with CBN. That exchange that you're doing is not regulated by the CBN or by anybody or the P2P.
Yeah, I know, and this is where the problem is. So this is where I think CBN would actually be right.
Well, it's not CBN's money.
We hear from the economists that even when FAC is paid, suddenly
you see the problem, Malam. Malam, it's not. This is the problem. It's not CBN's money. Olumide and I are trading. Olumide wants $10. I sent him $10. Whether it's 10 or $1 million, it's my money. It's Olumide's money.
I'm not disputing that. Sorry, 1 second. I'm not disputing that. Sorry, please. I'm sorry. I'm not disputing that whether it's not your money or not. But I have a problem. The past government has printed 23 trillion naira. That, as a matter of fact, when you listen to the last Senate session, nobody knows where that money is, right? And now there's a problem that the money is going to be used to buy certain USDT that I won't be able to account for. And this is the problem. So demand for USDT is going to be created by this 23 trillion. And then, so it just...
US will know. US will know. Trust me. No, US will know.
Sorry?
The US will know.
So once it goes in there...
No, you just can't.
Okay, go ahead.
You just can't wake up. Today's going to speak.
Last contribution because I actually have...
Oh, to the text for go ahead.
I think we have narrowed down to where we are going, which is the fact that Binance, crypto, and all of that is P2P. People doing what they need to do amongst themselves in US dollars. All right. It is an unregulated market, and people can do whatever it is they want to do with their investments as they should. The problem is the fact that unfortunately we now have a situation where Nigerians are now using their naira to buy dollars in order to trade in that market. And the malams that want to also send dollars to me is now asking what is the exchange rate on that market before they can sell dollars to me here. That is the problem we have. If we're able to bring that separation, then people can continue to trade on their Binance and let the Nigerian economy be running the way it should run. And if you want to change your dollar, come and change it. Regarding what the gentleman said about 23 trillion disappearing, 23 trillion did not disappear, my brother. It's there in our economy. It's there in our system. It's there within the Nigerian economy. You know, as a matter of fact, it is what is causing the inflation you are seeing now. Is the reason why the price of everything is going up. Money supply is simply too high within the system. And unless that money supply is brought under control, the price of everything will continue to go up. In conjunction with the instability in the exchange rate. So we have two fights to fight. First of all, we have to find a way of bringing stability to the exchange rate, and that will mean establishing that barrier between unregulated markets such as Binance and the regulated market. That's number one. Number two, we have to find a way of getting the excess liquidity created by the $23 trillion out of our system, so that not too much money will not be running after too little goods.
Interesting.
If we do those two, then we are good.
Everything.
The people who printed the 23 trillion. So sorry to interrupt because Olatunde has made the point. The people who printed the 23 trillion and the people who are also printing Nigerian naira on Binance. The difference between these two people is one has monopoly on violence, and the people who have monopoly on violence, that are the issuers of the real Nigerian naira circulating in the economy, are going after a set of other people creating debt out of, or credit expansion out of nowhere. That is the crux of what is happening right now. And those people going after these people are also using the system. So those are bogies on in Zone 4 and all of that, calling, those guys are like the low-hanging fruits. The people who want this thing to stop are also printing money. And we also have to stop printing money. So it's a conundrum.
We are not printing money anymore at the moment, at least.
Okay, then you don't do that.
The present governor have made it very clear that, there is no more ways and means. As a matter of fact, he is trying to get the money that is already floating in the system away. And that is why it's increasing.
Everything, if we print, we know. Just to be clear, if we print, we know everything. So it's clear. If we print, we know.
Yeah, okay, wait, hold on. That's the point I'm about to make now.
Yeah.
These people using these other systems, right? There is a way that they can mathematically prove the issuance without having to be part of a private party who is always privy to those information. These people are in a system where everyone can see how much is being issued.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about. I hear you. Let's not.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Don't let us go.
Yeah. To the last question.
Don't let us go into the realm of control.
Yeah. To the last question for you today. Because what leave? We're also going to talk about MPC, right? What's your take on the MPC decision this week coming up? There's money supply, like you've said. We want to attract foreign portfolio investments. Do you think the central bank raises rates, leaves it the same, or drops it? What's your take on the MPC?
They will clearly raise it. They will clearly raise it. The question actually is, by how much? Is it going to be 200 basis points? Is it going to be 300 basis points? Because the truth of the matter is that I believe the last MPC that Emefiele chaired before he left rates at about 12.5%. Interest rates in the environment have run significantly above that already. All right, so essentially, this MPC is going to be playing catch up with interest rates. So clearly, rates is going to go up.
If we raise rates, what happens to SMEs? What happens to the consumers? Student loans? What happens to all that?
Unfortunately, we need to move one step at a time. What we are faced with now is excess liquidity in the system. We need to just find a way. We have two challenges actually. Number one, excess liquidity in the system. Number two, raising rates to the point that it will become attractive for foreign investors to want to bring in dollars into our system. Those are the two things we need to tackle now. Mm-hmm. Now, to mop up excess liquidity, you need to raise rates.
Gotcha. What point? We just want folks to understand that.
To also attract foreign portfolio investor, you need to move your rates closer to where inflation is, for it to be attractive to them. So what will happen short run? What will happen is that the cost of the cost of borrowing capital will go up, which means obviously loan rates will go up. Student loan rates and all of that will go up. But like I said, short run. Medium to long run, after the economy has stabilized and liquidity in the system has been controlled and inflation starts to drop. But the CBN governor has already mentioned that he is targeting the 21% inflation rate for 2024. We're at about 29.9 already. So we have a long way to achieve his own inflation target. So the point at which we achieve the inflation target of 21% he has mentioned, then we can now start dropping rates again. When we start dropping rates again, then the interest rate to the general public can start coming down too. When you are in a hole, what they say is that when you are in a hole and you want to get out, the first thing you do is to stop digging. So what we have to do first is to stop digging, i.e., we don't print any no more money.
Mm-hmm.
Then secondly, find a way of getting the money that is there out of the system, and then we can now take it from there. And all of this is certainly not going to be achieved overnight. It's going to be a medium to long run solution, and we need to really, really understand that. If we understand that, then we'll continue to push the government to continue to do the right thing. It of course means that there will be short-term pains for everybody to bear. If we bear those short-term pains, then medium to long run, if the government continues to do the right thing, then we have the possibility of achieving stability of some kind.
Gotcha. Well, right. Tunde, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you taking the time to just go through that with us. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir. Let me get, I got Bade, then Tunde, then Dice. So Bade, thanks for being there. Then let's just go over the room. So Bade, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir. I can hear you.
Thank you so much for this privilege. Mr. Tunde has said so well, but there are some things that I think I jotted down, but I learned a lot from him as well, but I don't think they are stop printing, because from my observation, I don't think this CBN thing, they don't know anything about this thing they are doing. For the Aboki thing, for the BDC thing, the new information on the process and the whatever, I think is a very good observation. There is a report I read that they are going to recapitalize them to 500 million. They are breaking them into tiers. Because left for me, these people can't be dealt with the way they are dealing with them. It's so bad. Nigeria economy needed BDC. I can't just experience or expect somebody that is in Alaba market or Nika market to walk into the bank from Q. From Q is restricted now. No, from Q again. How do you want importer to get their FX? This government is not making provision for that now. As I'm talking to you, on TRMS this week, there is an observation that anybody that wants to pay school fees, that wants to do medicals, is only 5 banks, 5 commercial banks and CBN that is there. Major banks are taking off from TRMS. People keep sending mails to CBN, sending mails to their banks. I think you know the process of TRMS, paying school fees, doing medicals abroad, doing international remittances. Major banks in Nigeria are taking away from TRMS without a prior notice to the customers. A lot of people are trapped. So where do you want people to pay for urgent bills?
So if I understand, are you saying that we should allow BDCs, no regulation, all that kind of stuff? Is that
no. It is not we should. It is not we should. They are going to, the law they are going to bring now, I think creating them into tiers, tier 1 and tier 2, I think is better way. Because everybody cannot access FX from the bank. Nobody, most importers get their FX.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. I just want to be clear what you're saying. So you are in support of the policy of the regulation of the BDC. You are in support of it.
Yes, I think very, very, Very. I am in.
Okay,
but for the other person that said something about his domiciliary account, you can get money from the bank. I got money from the bank this week. You can walk into the bank.
Naira or dollars?
Most banks don't have.
Naira
yes, you can get from your domiciliary account.
No,
they are not converting anybody's money.
Naira or dollar?
Dollar.
Okay.
If it is IMTO is International Money Transfer Regulators.
Okay.
Operators. That is that one should be paid to you in Naira. No doubt about it. It's a very good idea.
Naira or dollars? You just be clear Naira. What he said.
IMTOs is different from wire transfer. IMTOs International Money Transfer.
Nobody mentioned wire.
Like Sendwave, MoneyGram, Western Union. You can get them in Naira.
Hold up.
As I'm talking to you now.
Hold up. The gentleman is paid his salary in dollars. He's asking a simple question: will he get it in dollars or Naira?
Is he getting his salary via IMTO or into his domiciliary account?
Into his domiciliary account.
He will get dollar.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
Provided it is available in his bank.
Why is it what's provided now? He said he was provided matter again.
This is the challenge. Do you know how banks get their cash?
No, don't worry.
It is cash deposited by people that wants to transfer to their customers abroad.
Okay.
That is how most bank branches has their dollar.
All right, I hear you.
But for the past weeks, the disruption from our bookies and whatever is making most of the bank branches get away from dollar. I have someone that sold money this last week. He brought in an aboki, sold to aboki, a withdrawal and a deposit goes. They are not converting your money except if it is INTOs.
Okay, good point. Noted. I think it's heady. Let's get Dice. Buddy, thank you so much. Mr. DIC.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for holding on there. Thanks, buddy. So go ahead, Mr. DIC.
Hello, Kalu.
How you doing, sir?
Hi, Olumide. Thank you guys for the space. I will make a few summations, and I want to ask yourself and Olumide a question after. I think when we talk about Nigeria and the policies and the economic policies or non-policies, we always neglect to remember that Nigeria at the moment, our economy at the moment, is a house with a very not fit for purpose foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a house that is not fit for purpose foundation, one of the first things you're going to do is cost demolition and see how you're going to rebuild the foundation. We have a monetary system that has been infiltrated by illegality. So, like the gentleman that spoke earlier was like, we need to mop the excess liquidity in the system. We need to then bring the regulation, like what they're doing with the BTC, to get a good understanding of what legal naira is in the system. Now, my observation is, when we decided to float the naira, what were the indicators that we looked at to say we were fit for purpose to float? Because when you look at the indicators that we know that are not debatable, oil production fell for over 15 months. We missed our OPEC quota by almost half, right? Then there was the ways and means we went berserk. I don't think there's been a publication or a study of where this money actually went. Then when you look at what Cardoso did with the CBN, the audits he commissioned that audit like what, 3 months ago, but we floated in naira before that. So from my estimation, we were not in a fit and purpose and right place to actually float, because all these indicators that were at play did not give credence to a good and purposeful float.
Yeah,
So,
like Mr. Dice, I think I get where you're going to with that. I think the short explanation is this, right? When you fix or when you peg your currency, you support that peg with reserves. So if I say $1 to 500 naira, I'm saying that if you bring a naira to me, I go to my reserves and I give you $1. That's what we're saying. So if
exactly.
if you look at the reserves at then, it was 33 billion. Then JP Morgan says out of 33 billion, we have nearly 23 billion is spoken for. So in reality, they have anywhere between 5 to 0 billion, right? If you have that amount in your FX, you cannot peg. You simply can't afford it. Hence, they had to depreciate the naira to float it so they don't have to go to the reserves. I suspect that if they are able to build the reserves up, you would see more control of the exchange rate, in which case they would not come in and peg, but they would intervene to maintain a peg that they have on their own decided. Yeah. But they don't have any money. There were no reserves for the peg. That's the point. So it wasn't a choice out of should we float, should we not float. They have there's no money.
Yeah, Carly, what I'm actually saying, I completely agree with you. You look at what is available to you, right? But they could have done other things, like what MFLA was actually trying to do then, when it did the Naira exchange thing, so that we could get all this Naira back into the bank to give some semblance of control. And another thing was, if they calculated all their indices, right? Because one of the biggest thing we're struggling with that is making Nigeria uninvestable at the moment is this fluctuation in Forex. If they did their calculation right and they said, you know what, all this indicates that Naira should be at 3,000, right? And Naira stays at 3,000 for, say, the next 6 months, the next 8 months. Everybody kind of understands what they're going to invest at. If you invested $10,000 into Nigeria in August, you would have lost more than half the value right now. How is that going to attract FDI?
Yeah, but again, you see, that's a point I'm making. That I agree with the point you're making. When you float, imports became more expensive, right, and all that. But the reality is that they simply could not afford it. It's like someone saying, I have a car, I use that car to go to school, I use that car to go to work, but I can't afford to fuel the car. So I have to sell the car. It's a tough call. You sell the car because you simply can't afford it. But you sell that car, you have no car for business and all that. But you can't afford it.
The issue here is not selling the car. The issue is getting value for your car, right? So you will look at what the car is going for.
Not getting value. Not getting value, but removing the expense of keeping the car. The expense is the problem. You can't afford the car. So it's not an issue of you getting the best value, but you eliminated the expense of maintaining the car. That's what Nigeria did. If we kept the peg...
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a direct question. Do you think the rate at which we chose then, the 750, do you think it was realistic? Because what the market movement has now shown was it wasn't realistic. That the 750 was a facade.
Yeah, but again, you see, that's when they did the initial float, they didn't do it properly, number one. They did a managed float where they said, oh, we're going to move it to... They depreciated or they devalued to 700 and then they waited and all that. But they still had 44 items bad. That was the wrong way. It's that you float or you don't float or you just take the peg up. The point is this. They could have taken it to 1,000 or 800, but it won't solve the issue. The issue is that there's no supply coming in. If you look at the oil sales, I put this stat out there all the time. 2005, we're doing 2.2 million barrels a day. Today, we're doing 1.5. Simple.
Yeah, so I'm not even worried about the supply side, that because different economists, right from before President Tinubu came to power, we understood that the country had a supply side issue. In fact, if you look at rules of efficient market, if your liquidity is compromised, that's why U.S. stock market is very difficult for you to manipulate a liquid market. If the market is liquid, the market efficiency improves. And when market efficiency improves, the true value of the asset comes to play. And that was why I was looking at it as, the president was coming in. He knew that supply side was an issue. It was not a new story for him. It was not. I'm sure he must have got intelligence report on NNPC and the CBFX. The issue I have with this present administration has been managing resources, managing FX, and that's what the CPN is really working all their hands together, because they understood the fact that there was so much fiscal waste. Look at the number of ministries we have now, Carl. Look at the labor, look at the civil service. A lot of people are saying, what do we use our waste and means for? The truth of the matter was, we use waste companies to build fantasy infrastructure and pay salaries. Nigeria, since 2014, had not been remitting funds to the federation account. Definitely, how would the Nigerian state pays money? Nigeria has one of the lowest tax revenue to GDP. If you look at the United States primarily make most of their revenue from taxes. They don't even take a little come from royalties and stamps and all this thing. Most of their income come from taxes. Nigeria doesn't make much of them, so we rely on export earnings, and those were not coming in. So definitely, the CBN became a financial engineer, which really triggered inflation and political promiscuity. But you see, the truth of the matter right now is that the president, this administration does not have an excuse to make supply side excuses. They understood that we had supply side issue. Why not manage the FX like Argentina, Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia, that happens to have, if you look at their GDP, that's why I was thinking Nigerian GDP will fall. Because if you look at their Q4 GDP, it's moderated. So I was expecting Saudi Arabia, being an oil-rich country, to reflect. But Nigeria, to the blue, surprised us. So if you look at the monetary language of the Saudi Arabia official, they're tightening. They're going to the debt market, they're cutting costs, they're doing things like that. So it tells you that, why is our administration not thinking of cutting costs? I've not seen any action, I've not seen any real top approach on cutting costs, rather fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy that we think we are cutting now, it shows recent statistics from Binance Day shows that we spend about $1 trillion on subsidy a month. So where is the cutting cost coming from now?
Yeah.
Can I quickly add something there, my brother? Real quick, I actually enjoy this conversation because we are touching on some very technical parts of the economy. Now, but this is where I want to put my own conversation. It's just in 4 things. Number one, you guys are talking about I think somebody mentioned inflation and mopping up money from the country. The monies that have been put out, liquidation rather. Now, first of all, you need to understand that, you see that thing that Emefiele was trying to do during the election period, that was an amazing strategy. Now, the only reason why that strategy did not work, which is is a major issue in Nigeria, in making policies in Nigeria. We did not have the political will, to actually push that policy. Now, it would have been something, of course, a lot of people were not convenient about it and all that, because Nigerians are used to seeing cash, and, they want money in their pockets. If we had hold on to that policy, we would have mopped out the excesses, the lot of money that these people have been printing in the last 8 years. Buhari was printing money every freaking week, if not every freaking day. They were printing money, and the reason why they were printing money is to do, like somebody was just talking, infrastructure, paying themselves, running the country. You don't have to print money. I don't know who gave them that idea that you print money. Then trying to mop out that money from the system was another problem. Now, the present administration, whether you like it or not, are printing money because they are trying to pay people. They are trying to, fund the running of the government, which is a major issue. Somebody was talking about our oil. Whether oil price falls, or oil price did not fall, the truth of the matter is that the Nigerian crude oil, the Nigerian oil itself is stolen every day. It's not even, they cannot even account for how much crude oil we are getting from the earth and how much we are selling.
Okay.
Yeah, David. Let me land.
David, you got to land the ship.
God, the CBN chief highlighted that they've stopped ways and means. And you see, it's better for us to stick with the official narrative, except you have evidence that they are still printing. I'm not a fan of what's going, except you have evidence of printing. Hold on. Because if you have the evidence, then I don't think the CBN's hawkish narrative then will be a fruition. Because if you look at the CBN body language now, it's trying as much as possible to reduce the money supply.
Yeah, sir, I understand that we are trying to be very, politically correct, but we are all Nigerians and we know how the system works.
David, David, hold on, David, hold on. No,
let me finish.
David, hold on. There's no political correctness on this space. What he's saying is that if you have the evidence, bring it. If you don't have the evidence, don't say it. That's all he's saying.
I agree to that. If you have evidence, but I'm going to still say what I wanted to say and let me land. We are in a country where when they say good morning to you, you have to open.
David, land the ship. Let me
leave it there. Now, there is no reason, if Cardoso is a very smart guy, there's no reason why we are finding Cardoso's signatures in some naira notes, on some naira notes.
That does not mean it's being printed, sir. That does not mean printing.
Let me finish. If you don't want me to talk,
I'll mute you. Yes, drop the mic, sir. Let me finish. Do drop the mic. Do drop the mic, sir. David, I want to take you off. I'm taking you off the space, sir. Sorry about that. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's get Abdurrahman. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to make a quick summation.
Abdurrahman, please go ahead, sir.
All right. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I just had a very few questions, but before then, I would love to make a comment, please, if that's fine.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So I've seen it.
Thank you. Off a bit, sir. I got DEF.
Hello.
Please go ahead, sir. Abdurrahman, please go ahead.
All right. So I would just say we are suffering from the actions of the previous administration. Let's just say in 2016, the CBN was giving $60,000 to BDCs per week, and we had about 2,000 plus BDCs as of then. We had almost 100 plus applications for BDC registrations per month, and this means that we spend about $8 billion defending the naira in that year alone. So this is money we could use to support manufacturers, do other stuff. So I feel like there's the problem is there, but we are faced with a problem that actually is as a result of our actions, right? Or should I say the actions of the past administration? Now, my question specifically is that floating the naira allows forces of demand and supply to determine the rates of foreign exchange, let's say dollar in particular. What is the rationale behind, what's the idea or the rationale behind the idea of going after marketplaces like Binance and some BDCs, trying to control the rates or trying to force things or using force to? Is it something that the CBN should do if truly naira was floated and is allowed to like if truly the market forces were allowed to determine the rates? What's the rationale behind that? Is it a good thing to do?
Interesting question. I think what is going on really is this: the market has been floated, right? But there's a panic that the outflow from demand is faster than the inflow from supply. So if you allow everything to play out the way it's going to play out, the reserves will be depreciated and the exchange rate will keep on going higher and higher. So the central bank is trying to use administrative actions to affect the demand side. That's why you hear Tunde talking about supply parallel markets, when they're going to give you a card so they can see where you are spending. The idea is that they want to remove the speculative tendencies where people bring in $1 billion naira cash into the market buy dollars, because when they give it to you on a card, they can see where you are spending. So if you don't spend it for say 6 months, they can tell, oh, you're just keeping the cash at home. And that's where I think the real games are going to start from. So they want to tamper down demand. And if they eliminate the quote unquote fake demand, they feel that the supply that is they have can meet the demand. I don't agree can meet it 100%, but that answers your question. That's why they are doing what they are doing. Yeah, there are a lot of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So please, another question, please. I saw a post a few weeks ago on this Twitter. So I follow up on the post. The post was made by someone I respect so much, and he was posting about the agric using mechanization and so on and so forth. I think the name of the company is John Deere or something like that. So I followed up because I have an agric startup. I'm a co-founder. I am into it. So I followed up, and then I spoke to their regional like marketers, like distributors in Nigeria. So when I spoke to them, they said, one, they have a system where they give you the machineries for 3 years. That is a lease to own thing. You pay monthly up to the period of that 3 years. And they also deal with government, where the government can do the same, or the government can buy direct from them. Now, my question is that the political will to solve this issue of forex I don't think is there, because if we have services like this, rather than chasing shadows, why not we use services like this to implement
Abdurrahman, don't compliment.
Are we not chasing shadows?
Yeah,
doing things like rather than I just feel the will is not there.
So don't complicate this thing. Don't start using words like political will. Doesn't mean anything. What's going on in Nigeria is simple. We're not selling crude oil, and we get the bulk of our dollars from the sale of crude oil. That's really what's going on in Nigeria. If today you hear that Nigeria is selling 2 million barrels per day, nobody will talk about speculators again. It's because the pie has gotten smaller, so we're now chasing the rats around the room to ensure they don't eat that small pie. That's what's going on, sir. So whether it's agriculture, whether it's whatever, we are not selling crude oil. The agriculture thingy has gone and come down. We're not making money from agriculture. The total amount of dollars we get from, say, cocoa or peanuts, groundnuts, it's nothing. So we've got to go back and reinvest in, like you said, extensive mechanized agriculture, but also focus on the crude oil. We are diversifying from something we've not even maximized. It's when you maximize crude oil that you can diversify away from it. Right now, we haven't even maximized. LNG is at 50% capacity utilization. LNG, we're no longer doing train 8. NNPC has no working refineries. We have a refinery in Dangote importing crude oil. We still have fuel shortage and fuel lines in Nigeria. How many petrochemical refineries do we have in the country and all that? So once we've maximized that, then we can start diversify. But for now, this is a story of a fall in crude oil exports. If today we start to export crude oil, CBN will not care about BDC or speculators or whatever. Just keep it simple. Don't let them deceive you with all this long whatever answers. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very correct. Yeah, guys, we're up to this is 10:25. We've been here since 8 o'clock. Olumide wants to get his beauty sleep as well, so let's start to wind down. Let's get Zuchi here. Zuchi, is that ZCHI? What's on your mind, sir? Def, got your hands up. I do apologize. Defiant adopting DeFi. Please go ahead, sir. Thanks for being on the space for so long. Appreciate that. What's your...
No problem, my people. Okay, so I'm going to take another direction for this conversation, which I haven't really seen a lot of speakers lay emphasis on, and that's the angle of corruption. We noticed that when the new government came in, right from the first day, they said subsidy was gone. And when you bring up this issue, you find a lot of, the go-to line is that the government could not keep funding it, which is, a no-brainer, obviously. The government could not keep funding things as they were. But I feel like things could have settled down a bit. They could have put the ministers, the cabinet, set up everything before you look at taking away subsidy from the Nigerian economy, because that hit a lot of small and medium scale businesses in a way that they were not even expecting. I mean, we have unemployment rising up. I don't know if we get the real figures. It should be going close to 30% to 40%, if I'm not mistaken. Now to the exchange rate. Once they decided to float, I feel like they repeated that issue again, that same mistake where you didn't get your forecast or everything done. I mean, you might not be able to get everything down to a T, but you could leave a reasonable margin of error that would help to at least stabilize the currency at a rate. Now, the problem that you see investors might have right now is the fact that they're not able to plan, not necessarily the fact that the exchange rate is going up. If everything had been done properly and we're maybe say at 2,000, 2,500 and it was stable at that rate, I think people would have been able to plan and people would have adjusted, because we know Nigerians can, obviously, if there's one thing we can do, we can always adjust. So I feel like that would have helped also a bit. And I'm just going to touch finally on the issue of printing money. Even the biggest economy in the world, which is the United States, you find that they're printing money as well. But the difference is that you have their currency in more countries, so they can get away with it. I mean, they're funding two wars at the same time, mostly by printing money. Although you're getting a lot of money from taxpayers, but you see the president of El Salvador, when he even came on CPAC, he mentioned the problem that they're printing money and it's going to come back to bite them. But ours is hitting us right within a very short space of time. We're already seeing the effect of the 23 trillion that was already printed under the last administration that's not accounted for. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And I would say, even though we say agriculture is going to contribute a little bit to it, I don't think that it's, I mean, Obi always talk about the Netherlands and what they're making from agriculture. If we do the right investment into agriculture, I mean, we have to start from somewhere and start seeing the returns. Even though that's a medium to long-term solution to our problems, I think we really need to look at getting people into the farm and taking care of the institution.
I hear you.
So I'll just thank you.
Thanks. A few comments you made. When people say stability just means supply. For something to be stable, there has to be supply coming in, then it becomes stable, right? Because when you say stability, if there's demand and there's supply, and people want 100 and you supply 100, then it's stable. If people want 800 and you supply 800, then it's stable. So the supply and the demand, that supply is what keeps it stable. So in America, they have market makers in the stock market, for instance. Prices are stable. You want to buy, you want to sell, I match you. If there's no supply in the market, I create supply. No demand, I create demand. So stability comes from having the means to supply the market with what the market needs. And Nigeria is supply dependent. Like, people want supply more. Let me put it, the market needs supply more than is available supply. So it's really a question of supply. On to the point of corruption, spot on, right? It's there and we know it, right? And I will just say this in the end. Once we can agree that there's no supply, then the government maybe can go back and say, okay, why, maybe use taxation to tax the imports. That way you can then force the local guys to then make products that are cheaper. Right now, local products are more expensive because it's expensive to make goods in Nigeria. And that's why this whole import-export thing doesn't really rhyme. Usually, if you have expensive imports, the local substitutes then sell more. But right now, it's expensive to make goods in Nigeria. So the imports with that expensive dollar turn out to be cheaper than the locally produced products. I mean, Lagos, there's no power supply. You can't see power supply for like 5 hours constant. So if you're a manufacturer, you're going to manufacture with diesel. The price of diesel is going up. I'm in a hotel, right? They've had to increase the rates this week simply because of diesel. It's not just an increase. And that's the inflation. That's the imported inflation, because diesel is imported into the country. So if you have that kind of economy, then whatever CBN is doing on the demand side, if they don't fix that cost of production in the country, and then prices are just going to keep on going higher and higher. So good points you've made, but we have to take it one by one and fix what's important. Otherwise, man, Tunde, please go ahead, sir. Tunde.
Yes, thank you, Carl. Sorry I could not make it to
the book signing on that day. I'm very sorry.
You're welcome.
I had other things. Yeah, but I think you summarized the real problem. The government still does not see themselves as the major problem in this country. And that's the problem. This changing after Binance BDCs, as Olumide would like to say, how much is involved? How much is involved? How much is the whole money circulating there? But where people are taking billions of naira, and look at the corruption in the government, and there's nothing done about it. So, and these are people who indirectly finance these markets. So I think central bank should focus mainly on its monetary policies. And I think another problem I have with central bank was they were too slow to act. From May, June, July, August, now coming to, this is more panicking. And to me, initially we were told the banks have the dollars. They don't want to touch it out. What has happened? As those dollars just evaporated, we should come out to let us, if you don't properly diagnose the problem, all the remedies or palliatives or drugs used will go to no effect. Okay, they started distributing rice. Some people have been killed there. Unconfirmed, I don't know how true it is. And that's the problem with us. We take one step forward. In the end, we go 5 or 6 steps backward. There is not much deep thinking to all these policies. They are just coming out with regulations. Custom will say this, Central Bank will say this one. The budget of Nigeria was based on 800 naira to the dollar. And Central Bank didn't see it fit to intervene even before. Even when the budget was sent to when the dollar was getting to 900, even as at November it was 1,000, they just kept quiet. Now they are acting. And honestly, I don't see anything successful. 1 week, 2 weeks, we'll go back to the normal thing. And that's the irony, and that's the problem I have with our government in this country. They don't have much of deep thinking and looking at the scenario planning, looking at the implications. And I don't see why they are afraid the naira will fall. Zimbabwe currency fell. Other currencies are falling. And they can't prop it up because they don't have the reserves to prop it up. Manufacturers told us, it was last week, that banks can only meet 20% of their demands. PZ, all these multinational companies have borrowed in dollars and finding it difficult. And so if they want, even MTN, most of companies like that, they are finding it difficult to get the dollars. Emirates has not yet been paid. So when they say 1.8 billion has come to the country, okay, why don't they pay Emirates? So I just think that we will talk about, but I think the people who are in the MR affairs need to really look in themselves in the mirror and are they sincere with their policies and how far will this thing take us? Because before you know it, if cannot take it 2,000 will just be a joke the next 2 or 3 months. And there's little or nothing they can do about it, except they too curb the excesses in the government, bring down heavily the cost of government. As somebody has said, there's now subsidy in the fuel. Whether we like it or not, 1 trillion, and they've never told us. So where's that 1 trillion coming from? It's not coming from fact. So go take that. It's coming from somewhere. It's not dropping down from heaven. So I think on the long run, we still will have hope. But government needs the people, the policy makers in this country need to look themselves in the mirror and say, are they saying the truth to the nation? And are they doing what is right? Thanks.
Thank you so for that. Olumide, any comments so far? We're just winding down the space. I've got health saints, and then we'll just take it further.
I think pointers have been said. I think it's going to be a busy week. I'm really waiting to see Cardoso's first MPC meeting. You know, the last time we had an MPC meeting, a MPC meeting was July last year. And, you know, I want to see his body language. I want him to their key questions. I want to see whether he's going to maintain that hawkish narrative. I also want to see how the new members' voting pattern, because usually I like to study MPC over the past years. I like to know who is hawkish. So we have new members. I want to see. Then I think, we didn't really talk about GDP, but I think all made a difference. And, just like I think I spoke privately to you, and you were mentioning that was very significant, And I saw that ICT and communication are moving close to agriculture, despite the fact that agriculture takes 1/4 of the country's GDP. Then I think FX market, I think, Nigerians are very sensitive to the dollar naira exchange rate. So it's very particular for everyone to know what's really happening. But I think sometimes we need to be very careful about the misinformation. And I think sometimes the panic really created can be exaggerated or over amplified. So I think ration should always come to play. And that's why this space really did justice to it. And I was happy that the well-established guy Tunde spoke on these things, because the end thing for me is that how do you make money from all these things from the conversation? You can't just stay on space for 2.5 hours and you can't put input in your personal life. So I think the body language is just telling you that, see, you have to find a way of edging. You have to find a way of having exposure in foreign currencies. You have to improve your earning capacity. And, these are the major reasons why we are making this deliberation, not just to create fun or waste our time. So I think for listeners, I think this is a well said discussion. I think it's something that you can reflect back on and really plan for the week and speak to your investment bank or whoever financial advisor that helps to fine-tune your decision. But in summary, I want a Nigeria that will prosper. And, Kalu, one of the things I just realized is that since we have been around, it's very difficult to have a moderate conversation with the average Nigerian because they are irritated. Food inflation is high. The heat period. So the level of agitation, now I understand why you can't even be sarcastic. You just have to be very careful when you're talking on Twitter and things like that. So I really took those things, and I feel that the government in power also need to work well on infrastructure and the fact that we see high number of people without jobs loitering around the streets, even in highbrow areas in Lagos. It really kept me worried. So those are things I saw. I'm very much President.
Lagos is interesting. I was in Ikoyi yesterday. Highbrow, that should be the Beverly Hills of Nigeria. And what I saw, man, it was this is highbrow. It was dark. There were people walking on the street. That's what I noticed. People are walking on the streets. It didn't look like Ikoyi, to be honest with you. Lekki, everywhere in Lekki Phase 1, it's almost commercial. Taxis everywhere and all that. It's funny. But let's talk about this oil GDP and why it's significant. Oil GDP. If you look at the GDP figures for Nigeria, is it quarter 3 or so? Nigeria's actually posted a surprise gain. But why I said it was significant was that the gain came because crude oil, for the first time in a long while, produced volumes and added more to the GDP. So last time was happening in Nigeria for almost 12 years or so. Oil has been negative. The GDP growth for oil has been negative. This last GDP reading saw crude oil go higher in terms of production, and that alone, just that bump, caused the Nigerian economy to expand, i.e. the GDP to grow. This goes back to what we were saying. This is just an expansion of just to 1.5 or so, or is it 1.7 million barrels per day, caused the GDP of Nigeria to jump. So imagine what would happen if in next 6 months, the oil revenues of Nigeria or the oil output goes from where it is today to 2 million barrels per day. Number one, the GDP will jump. Number two, the revenues will jump. Do you know what will happen? The naira will gain value and the dollar will fall. All this thing you are hearing about BDC, this or that, you won't hear it again because the speculators will run away. Because now Nigeria is selling 2 million barrels minimum a day. If you are selling 2 million barrels minimum a day, dollars will flow into Nigeria. Nigeria can easily borrow at a lower deficit because they have dollars. This is the light at the end of the tunnel that we're talking about. When we say supply, people say we attack BDCs. You are wasting your time. Focus on what's important. The crude oil theft in the Delta. If you stop that crude oil theft, the naira will gain value, the dollar will fall. End of story. Let me tell you, register every BDC guy. Register all of them. Give them tag, leg tag their account. If you don't fix the oil sales in the Delta, nothing will happen. You can't be saying, oh, there's no correlation between the BDC registration and the supply. The issue is supply of dollars. That's why, you know, when you are broke, you start to look at your budget, look at your pocket. Oh, I'm not going to eat this, because you are broke. The day you have money, you want to go to the restaurant and eat jollof rice in Sheraton. But when you are broke, you set your budget well and you plan. Nigeria is broke now. So we're looking at BDC, speculators, Binance. What's Binance? Binance volume is nothing if we are selling crude oil, which we are not today, because we are only about 1.5, 1.7 because of theft and shortage. That's just it. Focus on what's important.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add, not just even oil theft. I'm very concerned about investment and the dynamics playing in our energy sector. If you look at the fact that the NNPC boss said that investment in that sector is at the lowest in 12 years. I can't remember the actual number. So low. And the fact that we're seeing the dynamics between onshore and offshore, because a lot of people still forget that onshore takes a large chunk of the 37 billion barrels reserve we have, and just about 11 to 13 different looking at metrics you're looking. I'm using the Energy Institute of Agency, the American agency body. I think it's about 13 billion, and that's so most of our is onshore. Now we're selling it to the locals, and the approval has been slow. The deal between ExxonMobil, Zeblat, we expected President Buhari dragged it. We're expecting President Tinubu. The market is still waiting, and that's why there's a premium on Zeblat. We're also seeing the fact that Shell sold to part of their old staff, but approval is still another issue. Then you look at environmental issue again. Ever since we complained about Shell degrading the Niger Delta, but recent statistics, because I did a comprehensive story about the energy sector, recent statistics show that local companies even pollute the environment more than. So we have a problem of competence. We have a problem of multinationals, because we can't, no matter how you look at it, the multinationals have better technical expertise, they have better handling. Then the FX market has also affected because influence of investment. Then the country's epileptic policy. Look at that. There was a new circular that the president ordered the suspension of liquefied petroleum gas because of they want to stabilize cooking gas. That does not play good in the sector, because definitely I understand why the president is doing that, but we need to also look at the fact that markets will definitely want to get dollar exposure than domestic demand. So these are some of the concerns facing. I just wanted to highlight that it's not even just oil theft. We have serious issues facing that industry that a lot of people are not aware of.
Great. Yeah, good one. Let's get health is wealth. Health is wealth. Hi. So we're going to round up 15 minutes, guys. So go for it. Health is wealth. Go for it.
Okay. Hi, Kalu. I heard you talk about we're not exporting enough petrol.
Yeah.
And this petrol theft has been an ongoing issue.
Yep.
The reason what you and I know is not people like you and I that are thieving this petrol.
True.
So the government are not being sincere. They are not being sincere. It's the big men that are stealing this petrol, because you and I will not go and pass pipe there. I will not take ship on our waters. So they are not being sincere. Secondly, cost of governance. These people spent money they didn't have. We are all shouting about House of Rep and Senate. They are buying 160 million vehicle, blah blah blah. And remember, one of them came on channels to say, "Oh, we are talking about them. That about the ministers that have convoy. They have," which is true. There was one essay when she got her job. Innocently, she just took a photograph of herself in her office. I scanned the environment. Everything was brand new. That is just one essay. You know how many essays one minister has? Times how many ministers? So they spent money they didn't have. Then secondly, I want us as private citizens to start looking for how we can export things out of the country. I'll give you this example. I live in UK and I buy this cashew nut at what's it called now? Oh, I've forgotten the name of the store. I buy it for £3.50 for 190 grams. So I was watching Arise and I saw that I saw Reuters talking about this company, Real Foods. So I wrote down their name. I went to research them. I saw that they sell cashew. So because I'm expecting some money from Nigeria, like 3.5 million by the middle of the year, rent. When I did that project, money was 450 naira to 1. Now it's over 2,000 naira. I cannot exchange it at that price. It will be suicidal. So I thought, okay, maybe I can bring cashew here to come and sell. So I called the company. To cut the long story short, Kalu is going to cost me per unit, like at the rate of 15p. And I'm hoping to go and market it for stores here, for African stores, at £2 each.
Yeah,
so you can imagine.
I mean, let me just make a point a bit clear for you. Dangote, no, not Dangote, Julius Berger, large firm, registered firm, public traded firm in Nigeria. They export cashew nuts as well. They have a processing plant, so they get paid in naira, and are supposed to take that naira and buy cashew nut and export it and get dollars. So your point is well received. If you don't know how to do it, don't just get someone that knows how to do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my research. Like I've bought a box. A box has cost me like 30,000. So they're going to bring it. I'm going to cargo it to myself here, and I'll go to all the African stores I know and all the Asian stores. And then I'm even going to upscale it. I'll approach it's Asda. I would approach Asda. I would approach a lot of shops and speak to their buyers and see if I can be what's it called, supplying them.
You know what? I would just say
what's it called? I'll tell you now. Fruit salad that the whole of Marks and Spencer's in UK sells. It comes in from Ghana every day, Kalu. And those fruit salads are not cheap. The cheapest you will get is £4, and they go up to £5, £6, £7 every day. You can imagine in how many branches of Marks and Spencer's in UK. But we just concentrate on oil. We need to create like an export zone devoid of a lot of bottlenecks, where everything will just be like online. You just fill your form online. We need to do that. We cannot continue.
Well said. I hear you. Well said. Well said. I mean, I'll just give advice to you. Before you do anything on export, make sure you talk to an expert, right? Make sure you get an expert, learn the thing before you start. But it's a gold mine. It's a gold mine. If you can get it out, Vietnam is the number one place for cashew nut. That's what we take it to. So just get your nose in your gun. Guys, come on.
Quick question, health as well. Sorry, Mr. Kalu. Did you say fruit salad from Ghana? Fruits. Health as well.
She's off. Yep. All right, let's.
Okay, did she say fruit salad? Fruit.
I think she means the fruits. I'm not really sure, but she just said fruit salad. Maybe she meant the fruit seed or the fruit. They're not even called fruit. I'm not sure. But most of the things from Ghana, Ghana is West Africa. They seem to have their export thing on a notch. We seem to have done crude oil and not enough of non-oil. So yeah.
Yeah, Ghana is open to most of the Western countries. America kind of gave them a seal that is a place to do business with, to invest. So a lot is going on in Ghana, really.
Gotcha.
I was just wondering, fruit salad.
No worries.
You must have a way of freezing and taking care of.
All right.
The storage.
All right. Let me get
something to think about.
Yep.
Nigeria, we're getting behind and behind.
Yeah. Let me get first light.
Hi, Kate.
Hey, first light. How you doing? Good. Yeah, it's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Listen, fantastic discussion we're having this evening. And health is wealth. You see, you could see the calculation she just did. But like you said, I want her to follow the regulation, the standard that it's for UK, and make sure those standards were meet up from here before you airborne anything to that part of the world. The Ghana thing we're talking about, those are the standards they've been able to meet. The same thing in South Africa, they were able to meet those standards. In fact, when you do those things in South Africa, for instance, Asda and all those other big companies, they have their representative who follow them up from the day those things were planted and until the day of harvesting. I have I have a white farmer friend who told me how those things work then. But that's by the way. The second thing you see, there are things that are produced in Nigeria, you know, I've always had this discussion with us. But you see, when we talk about these things, that's why it pains me that we kept on hammering about the president and forgotten about the state governors. I've said this across space I've been. You don't need up to ₦1 billion to set up a cassava plant. You don't need up to ₦1 billion to set up a gari farm. You don't need up to ₦1 billion to set up a pineapple farm. Donald Duke did it in Cross River. You don't need up to ₦1 billion to do all these minor things in your state. To plant a huge farm of beans, you don't need 2 billion naira. And I'm also saying, at this period that Nigerians are hungry, Delta State, for instance, can you imagine, goes home with 35 billion naira every month. But guess what? There are people in that state that are hungry. There's no reason why those states in the next 6 months.
Hey, First Light,
continue.
I got to pause it just round up because I have 3 guys I want to take probably close by in about 7 minutes.
So let me run down. For CBN, for me, regulate the bureau de change, because like I said, you go to other countries, you know how their bureau de change work. They take your passport to know who buys and who sells, so that when you go out, they have record of you. Secondly, the government needs to stop all transaction in Nigeria. Draw down, you cannot draw down any currency of any country if you travel there. In America, you can't draw down any currency if not dollar. In the UK, the same thing. In Nigeria, any drawdown you're going to do from the bank must be dollars. Whether you save your money in dollars, when you're drawing down that currency, it must be naira alone. If we do that, we'll have enough, we'll be able to add something to our reserve. Meaning that when you're traveling out of Nigeria, they don't give you cash. Either they give you card or they open up your card to certain limits that you have that you can spend when you go out. But the point is, Nigerians, we need to remove our mind completely with this dollar exchange and everything, and start forcing our state governors, our local government to invest into farming, to invest into manufacturing, to invest into things that we can take out of Nigeria. And I'm very sure at the end of the day, we'll be better for it. Thank you very much.
Real quick, health as well. Real quick, what fruit were you talking about? Health as well. Before I take the 3 guys, real quick.
Fruit salad, and they consist of pineapple, pawpaw, mango.
Okay, all right. Just
tropical fruit salad, and sometimes there's kiwi.
Okay, someone's asking. Gotcha. So let me get Eze Chuku, VIP Wonsu. Thank you, Health as well. Yeah. VIP Wonsu. Yeah, real quick.
Thank you for having me, Carlo, and with a solid conversation so far. I've got 2 questions. It may sound a bit basic, but I need you to explain it to us. So we're looking at the interest rates going up, right, after the MPS, and to curb inflation. That's why we raise interest rates all over the world most times, right? But when we look at our inflation, it says for over 40% or 45% of our inflation basket is made of food items, and we know why that is the case. The issue is because of insecurity, right? So if we raise the interest rate, I want you to make this clear to me. Is it going to be stifling Nigerians, and how is it going to solve that inflation problem if food constitutes over 45% of it, and the issue of food is because of insecurity? That's one. The second one, this may sound a bit tactical or basic, but I want maybe Olumide, because he's in Nigeria, to make more sense. What is it with we buying naira at POS in Nigeria, that if you walk into a bank or you go to the ATM, you cannot get naira anymore then, but you can purchase it from a POS? Please, can you guys make it make sense? I don't really understand.
Let me start the second question. I think it was strange to me too, because actually the amount of POS merchants, I'm talking on the island, not even on the mainland, because I've spent about 3 weeks now. I can tell you that it's a shocker for me, and I was wondering, despite the fact that we have bank ATMs, but you see, surprisingly, at high barriers, banking shares are not they seem not to be working. So is it a collaboration with POS merchants? Only God knows. But you see, the charge, because I think if you do 10,000, they take 200 extra.
Exactly. Is that not another form of BDC, so, right? What's central bank doing about it?
So I think if you look at NIBS data, digital transactions are at its high, and we have new innovation where an hybrid between cash and digital. So POS definitely have seen a window, and there are rumors that there are collaborations with traditional institutions to make them systemic. That's why a number of ATMs seem not to be working, because you'll be wondering if ATMs are working with POS merchants, just the significant number of POS merchants will they come to place. But just to summarize, just for time, I think the new technology, I don't see it taking long, because definitely we are moving towards digital. At some point, they will rather have to reform, but it's really becoming a menace. And that's why I was telling Carlo that, that's one reason why Lagos will not even be on the crypto top 10 highest interest in Nigeria, because the number of POS in Lagos alone, the number of POS agents in Lagos, they're almost in every street in Lagos, and it's really very embarrassing. But I think the longer term is that time will elude them, based on the NIBS that I'm seeing, and the fact that Nigeria is Africa's biggest fintech market. We're seeing new innovation. We're seeing, so I think we should just give it time. Innovation will phase them out, but it's a very good point to raise. The second one, I think Carlo should talk about it.
If I understand the question, I was asking why we're raising rates since inflation is food driven. Is that it?
Yes. Is it not going to be stifling Nigerians?
I mean, we have to. It's the normal way to fight inflation is to raise rates to make to reduce money supply or to make money expensive. So they will do that part. That's the monetary side, but it won't fix the food side. But they still have to do that part. They have to raise the rates to at least match inflation or whatever. They have to sort of kill demand, if you get my meaning, to reduce the monetary side of the inflation. Should we say the contributors to inflation? They have to do that part whilst they face the food side as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I got Hybrid, Saint, and then we'll call today, right? So Hybrid, you've got the floor. Hybrid, Samuel, and then we'll do Saints, and then we'll call today. Hybrid, go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this space, Carlo. I just got some few questions, like 2 questions. I don't know if it has been addressed on this space. Sorry if it has been addressed. But I just want to ask, why is bank not selling dollar currently? And secondly, I believe CBN supply dollar to BDCs. So I want to know who is responsible to supply dollar to banks to make it available for them to sell. I don't know if it's Carlo or the medicine, but
I think now with an open market, if you want to sell dollars, you sell to your bank. Then your bank has dollars. Your bank can also buy from other banks. I can also buy from the CBN or can buy from anyone that has supply of dollars. It's now an open market. So dollar is now highest bidder, free willing buyer, willing seller, more or less. Your bank doesn't have dollars because there is no supply of dollars. The same thing we're saying all night. There's no supply, more or less. Yeah.
And also, if you look at Nigerian banks, for example, look at composition. We have what we call the 3 FX banks, Stanbic, Standard Chartered, Citi. They usually take between different, if you look at different years spectrum, at least 60% of the inflows. And these banks, definitely they have systemic. MTN, you have many South African companies, so they'll definitely move with Stanbic. We have American companies, we move with Standard. We also have RMB. So some of these banks get from inflows, and that's why we are also complaining that, if we really want our banks to be FX systemic, we really need to have companies outside, because one of the advantages South Africans have is that they have businesses flourishing in different parts of the world. So their banks become FX enabled, and that's why you see banks like Standard, really putting on FX advantage on the economy. So I think those are things we also need to look at. Our diaspora is pretty much, yes, growing, but we can do better. We need to start looking at businesses traveling abroad, like products that can bring in FX through our banks. Just imagine GT bringing in $100 million every month. Imagine UBI and things like that. That would really make a difference. We don't have that now.
Yep, that's it. It's pretty simple, yeah. All right, last guy, last but not least, Mr. Saint Anselm. You've got the floor, sir. Take us through and then we'll call it a day.
Hey, thank you very much, Carlo. Good evening, everyone. So mine is just a very short comment because I just want to make I just want to say this so that we all learn here, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So regarding the CBN, people say CBN is printing money, and I hear it all the time. I see it on Twitter, people just make posts about it, and they share the notes with Yemi Cardoso's signature on it. So what I want to just say is that the fact that Yemi Cardoso's signature is on the notes doesn't mean that CBN is printing money into circulation. What it means is that, sometimes when we have notes in the system, and we have notes that are torn, what they do is CBN bundle those notes and they destroy them. And once they destroy them, the only way to replace those notes that are being destroyed is to print new one in circulation. It happens everywhere in the world. It happens in the US and in Nigeria. We have the Nigerian Security and Nigerian Securities and Printing Company that does that. And if you check, every currency note has its unique serial number. So when people say that they're printing money, that is not enough basis to say that they are printing money into the economy, because they also have said that there's no more ways and means. They've stopped it until this government pays back the ones that they previously given to the Buhari's administration. So just to make that clear, so that we all just clear. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Thanks for making up. I think I did that on Twitter the other day. It's normal maintenance of notes. Notes get torn, worn, and dirty, and then you have to print those new ones. But it's not the printing is not like what like what we think it is. So Cardoso's signature doesn't mean they are borrowing, because what we're thinking is that they're going to borrow and monetize the debt. Hence the CBN is print. That's not what's going on. It's the normal wear and tear and maintenance. Thank you for that, sir. Olumide, I think we'll come to the end of it. It's 11:04. Let's say our goodbyes. Do you have any final words, Olumide?
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting space, and I actually learned a lot from different speakers. And I think, like I said, I'm really looking forward to the MPC meeting. I hope Cardoso follows the market narrative. It doesn't create a shocker. And I wish every Nigerian a peaceful and blissful week.
Great, guys. Yes. Also, we wish.
Carlo, can I just say something?
Real quick, we're shutting down. Real quick.
No question. Yeah. Okay. I just want to thank you. I spoke earlier on. Thank you for letting me speak again. And I just wanted to say, hope your book is doing well. Your session at the bookshop, I saw it online, and I saw you with somebody. I saw your picture with somebody, and I want to keep my fingers crossed that your book is doing very well. Let's talk about your money. That's the book Carlo Aja wrote, and it's been doing like a book. What do you call that? A book signing in Nigeria. And
okay. Why you say with somebody? What does somebody mean? That somebody sounded suspicious. What do you mean by somebody?
Miss W. I don't want to call the full name, but I think that may help you sell. I don't know. I saw other people that I don't know that you took pictures with. I hope you're having a rollicking time, and that the book is selling. And really, the book should sell, not because Carlo is doing this every time, spending time, yes, precious time to make us learn by force about finance, personal finance, investment, and all of that, but please, the book also is great. I have a copy. I have extra copies to give to friends and family, and I want to enjoin you guys to please do the same and have a good holiday in Nigeria, and also you too, Olumide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think the book was a hit because I think when I was able to speak with that, by the time the book was all gone, and a lot of people brought their books, and I think it just shows that we have a reading culture, and it shows that people really want to learn. And it was heavily subsidized. You look at the price compared to normal book, and look at the quality and what is inside. The fact that the unique part of it is that it shows Western Africa, and it mixes it up, and has every written without financial jargons. I think definitely I wasn't surprised it was going to be so. But I think what's more important is that the fact that Kalu is trying to push in personal finance education, I think for me was the star of the moment. And I think if we have people like that encouraging, despite the fact that Kalu is quite popular, critics they acknowledge this work, and and that was one of the things I respected about some Nigerians, that despite the fact that they share different ideology, they still bought the book. So I think you should have the book. If you don't have the book, sorry, you are missing a lot. And I think books usually reveal a lot, from more than what is being said. So I think you should give it a try. And I think it's really nice. They have the book, and for those abroad, I think you can get it on popular book sites. Thanks.
You can get it on Amazon.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate the endorsements and all that. Yeah, we had a book signing with folks in Lagos, and it was a big hit. I met a lot of people there. Really grateful you guys came out. Tomorrow, I'm in Nigeria as well. So tomorrow I'm doing channels. I'm doing Cool FM. I'm doing some other stations. Just talking about what's going on. Talking about the economy, of course, finance and all that. So I'm in town, seeing what's happening for myself and all that. It's been perfect. Yeah. All right, guys. So we'll be again next week. We didn't even get a chance to really scratch the surface on all the issues. We're trying to talk about Binance, the BDCs, GDP, and of course the MPC. We did try, but there's just a lot. Once you bring in one topic, they're all connected. So we did try to give you guys clarity on this. It's 11 o'clock. There's work tomorrow, so I'm gonna let you guys go for now, and I will hope to see you guys here next week when we're talking money, the economy, and of course personal finance. So on that note, guys, let me let you guys go. Thanks for being great sports. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys next week, and bye.